Interesting. It says we're now live streaming on YouTube.
Yes.
Just wonder who'd be watching.
I see we have one unidentified person. I'm not sure if they can identify themselves.
I see a call-in number 525 or 257. Tracy Galicia apparently is online now.
Sorry, does this work right now?
Hi. Who do we have joining us?
Sorry, I'm the unidentified person. This is Jace Domney with the Ministry of Environment. Just on my phone right now, sorry.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead then.
Sure.
Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome. I know we're all getting accustomed to these online meetings, but they leave a lot to be spoken for, because we don't get a chance to do the small chat and stuff like that. Anyhow, we'll go through the formal agenda. The switching screens here. Whoops. I got to get the agenda back up. So we started with the approval of the minutes, which were sent out earlier, and then they were also in the attachment, I think. Yeah, they're in the attachment as well. So any questions or concerns from the minutes that's sent out? And if there's not, can I have a motion to accept them?
I'll move, Peter.
Sounds like Mike. Seconder?
Yeah, I can second it. Brent?
Brent, okay, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, then just raise your hands. I'm trying to get the, so I can read the agenda and the screen at the same time, and I'm having a hard time doing that. Okay, thank you. In the introductions there, I guess Tracy's the only one I haven't seen at the meeting before. I think, is this your first meeting, Tracy?
Yes, but I was on the committee prior to this year.
Oh, okay. So you're familiar with the players then?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I missed you there. Everybody else, I think, is old hash. Okay, council reports. I'll turn that over to Catherine.
So right now we're looking at odor control as item number 2 on the agenda, so I can go over that with the committee. Is that okay with you, Peter?
Oh, I'm looking at the old minutes, that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta scroll down. Okay, go ahead, Catherine.
Okay. So we've had 3 complaints to date. There's often a correlation with the biosolids trucks. I think the first one in the year, there was some equipment that was down, and there was a lot of rain at that time. So the weather conditions, it was thought may have been contributing. So Public Works had relocated the fogger to kind of accommodate the situation at the time. So largely, we've been continuing with our mitigative measures with the tarps on the trailers and cleaning the trucks. And also we're continuing with the biosolids project, which is intended to assist with odor mitigation. So we'll have an update on that later on the agenda through Rick's team. And that's all I have for today. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Were there odor complaints in the last couple of months?
There was one in October, and it was related to biosolids truck delivery.
So the numbers of complaints have gone down significantly over the last couple of years.
Yeah, we had 3 this year so far, and historically the average has been higher, but I don't want to, negate the fact that we're still working on odor mitigation regardless and moving forward with the biosolids design and looking towards getting sealed trucks for transport, which we believe will assist greatly with the mitigation.
So any questions then on odor control? Okay, you can move on then, Catherine, I guess, to the recycling legislation.
Yeah, so Mike,
Sure, I can
it's an update
give an
today.
update. Circular Materials is a company that is administrating the recycling for all of Ontario. So they've split up Ontario into catchment areas, and Sault Ste. Marie is in catchment area number 33. We're still on our goal of transitioning to the producers on September 30th, 2023. So that's less than a year from now. Some of our last correspondence with Circular Materials, they told us they have been negotiating with GFL to transfer this into the control of Circular Materials Administration at that date. So around October 1st, 2023. And this means that the city will not be responsible for the collection of curbside recyclables. And we've also had meetings with Circular Materials about assisting or what we have in place to educate the public on how the transition will happen. So right now we're in a kind of wait and see type of mode to see how things play out with the collection of curbside waste, recycled waste.
You say, Mike, we're in a group. Who else in our group?
Pardon me?
You said that we were part of a group.
Oh, yes. Catchment 33 includes all of Algoma. So Circular Materials has quite a job to do to organize recycling, collection of recycling in all of Algoma. So, but it shouldn't really affect how we collect recyclables in Sault Ste. Marie. We'll still have curbside collection.
Okay, but with my Clean North hat, we frequently get questions about what to do with recycling in the district. So I can tell them it's under study or underway.
Yeah.
Is this next September realistic or?
And from the correspondence that we have, it sounds like that's the goal right now. So, we'll see how things play out in the next few months.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
For the curbside pickup, would we still be using the same bins we're currently using?
It
Or would
looks
that change?
that way, yeah,
Okay, that's good.
because it would be quite a job to change that over. Plus, where
Oh yeah,
everybody's, in the public right now is trained to use carts right now. So
yeah, and I feel like we kind of just started with that, so don't really want to change it too quick.
I'm sure GFL or any company would not want to collect manually.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Mike. Next up, biosolids update. And this is Rick, I guess, or Catherine.
Yeah, AECOM has prepared a presentation and Rick can share his screen.
Sure. So let me do that. I'll share my screen here. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Looks good to me.
Okay. So I won't take up a lot of your time, but a good segue from the discussion on odor control, because a big component of future odor control is related to how we manage the biosolids, obviously in transit to the site and also at the landfill site itself. So my intent today is basically to do a fairly quick presentation just to give the committee an update on where this project is at and what the updated schedule looks like. So I'll quickly talk about the background related to this project, talk about the selected technology that we're using to compost the material, provide you with a preliminary facility layout, and leave you with an updated project schedule. So in terms of the background, there was a class environmental assessment completed quite a few years ago, which recommended that we process the sewage sludge or the biosolids using either an alkaline stabilization technology or a composting technology. Subsequent to that, the province introduced what they call the Organic Action Plan. And through that action plan, basically there's a requirement for the city of Sault Ste. Marie to achieve a 50% waste reduction in resource recovery of food and organic waste generated in single family households. And ultimately what that means is the city is being mandated to initiate a source separated organics program curbside. So in and around 2025, the city is intending to start collecting source separated organics using a curbside collection program. That material that's collected would also be processed at this new facility at the landfill site. So there was an amendment issued to the previous Class EA to allow the introduction of source separated organics as another feedstock into that process. And that addendum process is complete. So we're now moving forward with the design to accommodate both the SSO feedstock and the biosolids feedstock. We did go through a vendor pre-selection process, and through that process, ultimately SG Gore was selected as the preferred vendor, and we will be implementing a composting technology process to process both the SSO and the biosolids. And the rationale behind the selection of the SG Gore system was really the fact that it has a low power consumption, it's a fairly simple operation, and it's fairly easily expandable. What it does include is a Gore cover system, which provides effective dust control and also some odor control. And in addition to the Gore covering the composting piles or the composting windrows, we are also covering the key processes with building enclosures, some of which are fabric enclosures and some of which will be metal buildings. But what that allows us to do is capture the foul air from those processes and ultimately treat that foul air in biofilters. So the design capacity has been developed based on a 20-year planning period. We're proposing to process roughly 10,000 wet tons of biosolids each year and about 5,000 tons of source separated organics. So this figure basically provides you with a high level overview of the Gore technology. So the image on the right basically shows us a cross section through. If we cut through one of the windrows of materials, this is what you'd see. So the green is a mixture of the organics material that we'll be collecting, whether it's biosolids or source separated organics. It's mixed with an amendment material, which is typically wood chips. It could be leaves as well. So basically the raw feedstock is mixed with an amendment. It's formed into these windrows inside the fabric structures. And then this cover, the gore cover, is placed over top of the windrow. And that gore cover is a weather resistant cover. It's breathable. It's a breathable membrane, just like the Gore-Tex technology that you're familiar with that is used in clothing. And basically the intent of covering the windrows is it helps to accelerate the composting process. It helps to reduce the emission of odors through that process, and it prevents the transmission of bacteria by retaining the bioaerosols. And by covering it, obviously, when we introduce air at the bottom of these windrows, it helps to retain that air and control the composting process. So it's a fairly simple process, and it is in use quite extensively in North America. So we felt it was appropriate for Sault Ste. Marie.
Question there, Rick. With the
Sure.
gore material, what is
Mhm.
the basis of that? Is that a polymer or something?
Well, it's like I say, Peter, I don't know if you're familiar with Gore-Tex that's used in clothing. You know, you've heard of using Gore-Tex in basically jackets and in gloves and winter gloves and things like that. It's a breathable material. In other words, you can, it keeps the weather out, but it allows, moisture and whatnot to exit the material as well. So it's a breathable material that's weatherproof.
Well, I understand that part, but the chemical composition, one of the questions that the critics might have, I'm just pre-thinking this, if it involves microplastics within the material, then you might, that'll be one of their concerns.
Okay. Well, to be honest with you, Peter, I can't answer the question in terms of what the composition of the Gore-Tex material is specifically. That is something that we could get an answer for you on, but in general, I don't have that answer handy. I don't know the details of that Gore-Tex fabric.
It's not urgent. I mean, we got some time to think this out, but I know that's going to be one of the questions.
Okay. And again, it is material, obviously, that is used in, the fabrication of clothing. So it is quite used readily across the globe right now. But to tell you exactly what its composition is, I don't have that handy for you.
Thank you.
Okay. So this is another image of the process. The top image is basically a profile image looking along the length of one of the windrows of material. So down along the bottom here, again, the material is placed on a concrete pad, and that concrete pad has aeration trenches in it. So you can see there's a blower unit at the end with a control unit. So that's able to blow air into the concrete trenches, which then obviously makes its way through the windrow material. The green is the actual gore cover. And within the piles or within the windrows, we also have oxygen and temperature sensors, which help control the amount of air that is registered by the control unit. So the control unit is getting information back on both temperature and oxygen content in the windrow, and it is adjusting the airflow accordingly. And then on the bottom, you can see cross sections taken along the length of the profile. And here you can see at the bottom again, these concrete tunnels where the air is introduced into the bottom of the windrows. There is a push wall, which we see here, a concrete push wall. So in terms of generating the windrows of materials, we'll be using front end loaders, which will bring in the material and push it against the push wall, generate your windrow of material. And then in the final image here in the bottom right, you can see the structure that is used to coil and uncoil the gore fabric cover. So basically this structure is used to cover, take and unroll the cover over the windrow of material And then when we're done with the cover and want to expose that windrow, that particular structure will coil the cover back up. So it's a structure that's used because these gore covers are quite heavy. So there is a steel structure that's used to both coil and uncoil that cover as needed. So in terms of the location of the facility, this is just an aerial image of the landfill. Down at the bottom end is Fifth Line here. This is the access road into the landfill. These are the public, these are the weigh scales and the administration building, the public drop-off area. And this is our current landfill mass. And the proposed location is in the northwest location of the existing landfill site. So it is in a location that's quite remote from sensitive uses in terms of other residential areas. So we've put it in sort of the back corner of the landfill, which will also help with odor management. And then if I turn our attention to the specific layout in that back corner, I'll just quickly run you through it. This is the existing perimeter road at the landfill site. In that back corner, we'll have access roads into the site. Basically, both source separated organics and biosolids will be delivered in trucks, in separate trucks, which will enter the receiving building. So those trucks will enter the receiving buildings, the doors will close, and after the doors close, they will then tip their loads, both the SSO and biosolids within the receiving building. We have a wood waste shredding and storage area here, so that material will then be hauled into the receiving building, mixed with those raw feeds or those raw materials to give us a blended product, which will then be delivered to the composting bunkers. And we have a series of fabric covered bunkers or fabric covered windrows of material. There are two such structures for the biosolids because we have 10,000 tons to process of the biosolids. And then we have one enclosed bunker for the source separated organics. So from the receiving building, the mixtures are delivered to these facilities, and they are formed into windrows in these facilities, covered with the Gore fabric structures, and then the composting process is undertaken within these bunkers. You'll notice here in relation to the receiving building, there's a biofilter here. So this building will be under negative air, or will be drawing air out of this building. It will be pushed over to the biofilter and treated in this biofilter before it's released to the atmosphere. So we'll be reducing the odor content in the receiving building by treating it in biofilter number 1. And then these 3 bunkers will also have their air removed from them and treated in biofilter number 2. So we have two separate biofilters that are planned to treat foul air before it's emitted to the atmosphere, which will be a much better situation than we have currently, obviously, where the biosolids are just tipped in the open working face of the landfill. Now we have a process where we're actually processing in enclosed facilities and treating the foul air before releasing it to the atmosphere. Once the composting process is done with the SSO and the biosolids, it goes for final screening and storage here. The reason that we're processing these 2 feedstocks separately is the biosolids, we're intending the final product to be, once it's screened, it will be mixed with native soils from on site and used as cover material in the landfilling operations. Whereas the SSO will be producing a Class A compost. The intent with that material, once it's screened, it will be used on city projects. It could be used by city cemeteries. It could be used by city parks and recreation. So through that process, it'll be used on various city projects, much like we are doing with, and you can just see it down in the image here. This is the existing compost pad for leaf and yard waste. So that leaf and yard waste, when it is composted, is currently being used with city projects, while we will be doing that with the final composted SSO product as well. So there are, as you can see sort of on the right-hand side here, there's we've built into the site design some future ability to expand the site. So here we've got room for a future bunker if we wanted to process more SSO or biosolids. We'll have room to establish a future bunker. We do have, future expansion for curing and storage. And there is the potential to add a bagging facility for the Class A compost if, for example, there's sufficient material generated through the SSO composting process that it exceeds the city's needs. There is the potential that the city could potentially take that material and bag it and potentially sell it to the public. So that is a high-level overview of the layout of the facility. And I think I touched on most of these design features. Again, the odor producing processes are going to be fully enclosed in buildings. That includes the receiving, the mixing, and the active composting processes. The odorous air from those processes will be treated in biofilters. And again, we talked about separating the SSO process versus the biosolids because there's going to be two separate end uses for the two products that are generated. And we do have provisions in the design for future expansion and possibly a bagging facility, as I mentioned. So in terms of an update to the project schedule, we currently have out to tender right now. We plan to clear that northwest corner of the landfill site. So there is a tender out right now to complete the clearing of that area. So to basically cut down the trees and harvest the trees. We will have the 30% design or the preliminary design package completed in December of 2022. A tender-ready package will be completed by December 2023. The project will be out to tender early in 2024, and construction will take place over basically a 2-year period, 2024 and 2025, with commissioning late in 2025. So that is the update. So I'll open it up to any questions or comments that anybody may have.
Let others jump in first. Questions or comments? While you're thinking about it, I have a couple. Since this is mandated by the province, is the province going to assist in the funding of this?
And Catherine, you can jump in. My understanding at this point in time, we have not been able to source any specific funding for the project. There have been in the past, and I'll use it as an example, the active landfill gas collection system. When the province did mandate that, they did come out with some funding to assist municipalities. I'm not aware of any specific funding targeted specifically at this that has come out to date. Catherine, and again, you can jump in if you're aware of anything yourself, but Peter, as far as I know, I'm not aware of any specific targeted funding programs to assist municipalities in meeting those mandates.
Yeah, we haven't sourced any funding for this as of yet, so we're currently budgeting the project using city funds.
Okay, now the public's also going to have lots of questions, but there's lots of time to come up with answers on the actual collection process. I can see from my standpoint, I compost all my vegetable matter. Our non-compostable material, we put in a freezer and then put it out once every couple of weeks. Anyhow, I can see all kinds of issues with bears and scavengers and stuff like that, and I'm sure all other communities have the same problems, but there's going to have to be some kind of pre-planning on this to reduce some of the apprehensions of the public. But we got 3 years to do it, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you raise a good point. There is going to be a lot of public education required as we shift gears and add another waste stream that will be set out curbside. Peter, again, this is being mandated by the province. The municipality is really has their hands tied in the sense that they do have to proceed with it. The good news is this has been implemented already, as you know, in many municipalities. So there are many examples of municipalities with curbside source separated organics collection. The city has initiated a study to look at, how what may be the best approach to collecting source separated organics. So how will their collection system change in order to collect source separated organics? So that study is currently ongoing right now. We're assisting the municipality with that in terms of, how best to collect that waste. And as you noted, in terms of bears, there are many containers that are being used out there, and the intent of those containers obviously would be such that they're bear proof. We do have the situation now, even with the potential for bears to gain access to our normal refuse bins. I've had a bear myself cross my front lawn this past fall. And I've had bears actually tamper with my waste collection container here at my house. So yeah, it is something that is certainly something that will have to be contended with, but there are plenty of examples, and there are containers particularly related to organics waste collection containers that are intended to be bear proof.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Any other questions? Okay. Moving on with the agenda then. Get it back up here. Other items. Are there other items? I had one that I'd suggest to Catherine. It's a minor issue, but that one about the wet wipes, I guess they call them. And I was reading this article. It's a major problem in England with stuff being flushed down the drain that's not biodigestible, and it ends up in, they're talking about rafts of this non-biodegradable material. And apparently a lot of it is wet wipes and diapers and stuff like that. Do we have an issue in the Soo with our sewage treatment system with things being deposited through the sewage system that the system can't handle?
So to my knowledge, we don't currently have situations as described in the article that you had forwarded me in England, but certainly we don't want to see people flushing those down the pipes because they aren't as degradable as people may think, and it can cause operational issues. So yeah, certainly we encourage people to throw them in the garbage if they're using them and not flush them.
Out of curiosity, when I was going down the grocery aisles the other day, I picked up a couple of them, and they have stamped right on there, "Do not flush." So at least the industry acknowledges the problem. It's up to the consumer then if it is actually an issue.
That's interesting.
I know there's some out there, Peter, just for your benefit, I know there are some that they do say are flushable. So whether they're compostable or not, because like you say, there are some that are out there that are definitely clearly say on the packaging that they are not flushable, but there are others that are listed on the packaging as being flushable. Now, whether they're compostable, I'm not sure.
Okay, I'm just thinking of an education package for Clean North is always trying to educate the public. And if it's an issue locally, I would we could do some work on it. If it's not an issue, I wouldn't I'll put it on the back burner.
Yeah, at this time, I don't know that, like I said, we've had the issues as outlined in the article that you sent me, but certainly we have had issues in the past with things being flushed that aren't flushable, and of course it gets into the screens, it gets into the pumps, and the operators are then tasked with trying to get that removed. But I don't see any like clogging of mains due to flushable wipes from my end anyways at this point.
Okay, I don't want to cause us sure if there's no reason to worry, but if there is, just let us know and we can help with the education campaign.
Thanks.
Any other items we'd like to bring up?
I have one item. A lot of smaller communities in Algoma have share sheds at their dumps. What's stopping the Sioux from having something like a share shed?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Brent? I couldn't hear you. You're cutting out a bit.
Sorry. What's stopping our Sault Ste. Marie landfill from having a share shed where we can like reuse products and whatnot?
I can answer, I think. Right now, we don't allow scavenging at the city landfill. We don't have a setup for a share shed, and generally we find that there's a number of hazards for the public to get rid of their waste right now. So we want them to follow, separate the material. And right now we don't allow scavenging at the city landfill.
Yeah, the share shed's kind of a way to almost prevent scavenging by sharing the good stuff that you don't really have to throw out.
I think there's other places like Habitat for Humanity or Value Village and things like that. That's what we encourage, or clothes for
Okay.
kids and things like
Good
that.
points. All right, thank you.
Any other questions or issues? Catherine, do we have to have one more meeting this year, don't we?
Yes, and we're looking at scheduling something for December, so we'll send out a suggested date to see who can be in attendance for that, and we'll send out emails.
Okay. Oh, the other question, our terms for the committee, are we up for renewal again or reposting?
So it's a 2-year term. We'll have to review where we're at in the cycle on that. And then we work with our clerk's department in issuing those notices. So I'll have to take a look at that for our next meeting.
You don't have to find it right now. But if we're up for renewal again, we'll need a reminder to resubmit.
Right.
Okay, if there are no other questions, thank you for attending.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks to Luke for the presentation as well.
Thank you.
Stay
Thank
stay
you, everyone.
safe.
Everybody,
Have
have a good day.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.